You got to give more power to the people.
There's some people up there holding everything, telling lies, giving alibis about the people's money and things. And if they're gonna fall away, might as well be some to me. Yeah, they've seen and heard of, but never had misery. There are some people who are starving to death, never knew but only heard of, and they never had happiness.
Oh, if you don't have enough to eat,
How can you think of love? You don't have time to care. Those crimes you're guilty of.
oh, you got to give more power to the people. For God's sake, why don't you give more power to the people?
For God's sake, why don't you give more power to the people? Only Cornel West, only Dr. Cornel West. As you know, he and I are both we are brothers beloved, but we are both music lovers. But his music IQ is pretty impressive. Of course, music runs in his DNA, and if you know anything about Cornel West, if you ever hear him speak anywhere, and you give him more than 3 minutes, he gonna weave music somewhere in that presentation. That's just who he is. It's the Shy Lights, for God's sake. Talk to me, Dr. West. Talk to me.
Oh, brother, you know, I always love you and we support and want to mention Mark Ridley Thomas, the brother I have deep love, deep respect for. It's his birthday today.
It is.
Birthday today.
That's right.
And so much of his life has been giving power to everyday people in the language of Sly Stone, ordinary people in the name of James Cleveland, and that's true for yourself, too. That's what we have a covenant for. But we're talking about the genius of Eugene record of the Shy Lights, so brother, out of Chicago. That's 1971. That's 54 years ago. Classic. A lot of people know the Shy Lights singing Old Girl and Have You Seen It? They wrote with Barbara Acklin and others. But this was their explicit political song. And when we think about elections, we're talking about giving power to ordinary people, poor people, incarcerated people, people in the hood, people in the barrios, people on the reservation, working people across the board, though, brother. We got to keep the music as a standard because the politicians, for the most part, fall short. Now, Mark Ridley Thomas is different, but fall short. Harold Washington was different, but fall short.
Turn it up, Miles. Give me a little bit more of that. Just a little bit more.
Oh, yeah. More power.
It is I don't want to say amazing to me, but it's arresting for me, Doc. The way in which our artists down through the years have used their voices, their instruments, their platforms to express themselves in ways when we could not. You know what I mean?
That's exactly right, though, brother. They speak from their hearts and souls in the dark corners of their hearts and souls. They honest, they sincere. Malcolm said what? Sincerity is my credential. That's Malcolm.
Mm-hmm.
He's a musician in his own distinctive way, the jazz man in his own particular manner.
No, I love that. I love that. Love that track. Hadn't heard that in a long time. For God's sake, give more power to the people. When we come forward with Dr. Cornel West, we'll talk about whether or not that actually happened this week. Do the people now? Will the people now have more power born of these elections across the country? On Tuesday, I said on this program yesterday that I don't want us to be irrationally exuberant. I think that's the phrase I used yesterday. A great deal to be excited about on the one hand, and the primary issue for me is the turnout. I'm not so much concerned about the individuals as I am what the turnout said. All across the country, from California to the Carolinas, records were set in terms of turnout. A message was clearly being sent to Donald Trump and his minions, and we'll talk about whether or not, for God's sake, there will be more power for the people. Cornel West on Tavis, Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking.
That's what we do around here.
You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
KBLA Talk 1580, standing with you in perilous times. If you've been impacted by the federal government shutdown or the discontinuation of SNAP benefits, you can find a food bank near you that's offering free groceries by going to lafoodbank.org or call 211. Additionally, LA County offers free meals at certain parks. There are meals and snacks for kids and seniors. Visit parks.lacounty.gov to find out which centers are offering which programs and to register in advance. And in addition to offering 2 free meals per day for all students, the LA Unified School District provides weekend meal kits for its students by request. The meal kits can be picked up on Fridays at grab-and-go locations. Please visit lausd.org/Cafe LA. That's lausd.org/CAFELA. We keep us safe. We keep us provided for. We keep us connected. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
If you've been diagnosed with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis, this is what it sounds like to be 1,000,000 miles away. Imagine being 1,000,000 miles away. Tremfya Guselkumab, taken by injection, is a prescription medicine for adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis who may benefit from taking injections or pills or phototherapy. With Tremfya, clearer skin is possible. In clinical trials, at least 70% of patients saw at least 90% clearer skin at 16 weeks. Results may vary. Tremfya is also indicated for adults with active psoriatic arthritis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Ask your doctor about Tremfya. Call 1-800-526-7736 or visit tremfya.com.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley, that's Cornel West. It's Smiley and West every Monday and Thursday, top of the second hour. And I'm always thrilled and honored and delighted to be in conversation with my brother and my friend, Dr. Cornel West. Let me just jump in with this and make the most of the time that we have. I don't want to color this any more than this. So you saw what happened on Election Day. You heard me opine a moment ago about the turnout and how heartened I was, at least by the message that was sent. But just give top line for me what you saw on Tuesday, and we'll jump from there.
Well, what I saw was a corrupt political system that's dominated with big money, with oligarchs and plutocrats, with both parties captive to that big money and oligarchs and plutocrats, and the people themselves so hungry. They had tried for a moment, the neo-fascist Trump, many are still tied in that direction, but they want to swing back, but they have nowhere else to swing back toward but a Democratic Party that's still milquetoast and is still mediocre. Mm-hmm. So you end up with what? You end up with a situation in which you got these centrist Democrats that's giving the Democratic Party a false confidence and a fake security, so they don't have to redefine and reconstruct themselves as a party. They can just keep going the same centrist way in the name of what they call pragmatism, what I call just outright opportunism. And then you got my dear brother Soron in New York, who is historic, who is brilliant, who ran a magnificent organized campaign over against the Democratic Party establishment, over against Trump and his neo-fascism. But even my dear brother Soron Mamdani, what does he do? Well, he looks at the world through the lens of immigrants. You see, you and I come out of the black freedom struggle, brother. Mm-hmm. And the black freedom struggle doesn't look at the world through the lens of immigrants, because the lens of immigrants, as crucial as they are, as important as they are, We must defend their rights and defend their dignity when they're attacked by ICE. But it's still a settler mentality. Black people are not voluntary immigrants. Indigenous people are not voluntary immigrants. So this is not a nation of immigrants. It's a nation in which immigrants have made great contributions, but African peoples and black peoples and indigenous peoples are also constitutive of the nation or the city. And so when I hear my dear Soran speaking, I say, I'm with him on so many issues. I'm in solidarity with him. I'm glad he won, but he still has the limited lens. He's not looking at the world from bottoms up in the fundamental way in which Frantz Fanon and Du Bois and Fannie Lou Hamer and Ella Baker have taught us. So it's no accident then that when you look at who he chooses, he's going to keep the same police commissioner, because when you talk about black people, if you're not talking about the police and mass incarceration, then you're missing a whole lot. He didn't mention those issues in his powerful speech. He didn't mention it. So you end up with Jessica Tisch, who herself is a billionaire, who comes out of the neoliberal centrist camp, and that was the demand of the permanent government in New York, which is big business. They told Brother Soran, you must keep Jessica to make sure you keep these black folk and poor people under control with your police department. He said yes. I said, oh, I'm critical of that.
Yeah.
And then you look at the other folk who's standing with him now. They come out of Biden. They come out of de Blasio. And they come out of Eric Adams. And I said, well, where's the new dawn? Where's the new day? Come on, my brother.
Yeah.
But I'm giving him time. I'm giving him time, and I'm still in his corner. But we got to tell the truth in the name of black people and poor people and subjugated folk, including our precious indigenous brothers and sisters. Of course, we embrace our immigrants. But if you look at the world through immigrant eyes only, you're going to miss out on so much of America.
I love Cornel West. What can I tell you? I love his mind. I love his heart. Two things come to mind pretty immediately. Number one, if you listen to Dr. West regularly on this program, I hope that means you every Monday and Thursday, top of the second hour. We talked not long ago in this segment, in this iteration of Smiley and West, about these progressives who just can't seem to come up with an African-American agenda. They do well otherwise, and we're with them on so many issues. They just can't seem to tap into the black experience. Bernie Sanders had that problem. Zoran Mandani has that problem. And so I don't know what that's about, but they just keep missing the mark when it comes to understanding the black struggle and the black tradition, and Doc just lays that out more brilliantly than I ever could. But that raises two questions to my mind. Number one, what concern, what fear you have now that he's there about him being co-opted by the wrong forces?
That's exactly right. And that's the fear, though, brother. We had this fear with Obama.
Yep.
We had this fear with the Democratic Party back then. And when you look at who's around him, when you look at who he's choosing, when you look at his personnel, you have to keep track on where they come from. Now, if your fundamental social base is still young people who are part of the professional managerial class that spills over into working class immigrants, God bless all of them. They're all human beings. They all deserve attention. But you're not dealing with the situation of black folk, even his freezing of the rent. That doesn't apply to public housing, brother. That doesn't apply to the projects. You got to deal with the police. And where's the abolished poverty program? That's what's crucial. That's what's crucial. And people call him a socialist. And you say, well, I mean, I ran on a socialist platform. You remember that when I ran for president.
Of course.
What was I calling for? Abolition of poverty, abolition of ICE, the nationalization of banks, breaking up the monopolies in big business, breaking up monopolies in corporate America. He's not touching that. That's socialist. Now, I don't do it in the name of socialism. I do it in the name of Jesus. I'm coming out of the 25th chapter of Matthew. What you do for the least of these, you do unto me. So he's running on a social democratic or very robust liberal platform. I can understand that. He needed that to win. But people ought not think this is communism or socialism. No. If he was calling for genuine socialism, he'd break up the banks. He'd break up corporate America. He would decentralize it. He would have workers' control over the workplace the way Rick Wolf talks about it. That's full-blown socialism. I was calling for that. You see what I got. You see what I got.
Well, brother.
I'm going with the truth, but I can't go with the office beliefs. I got to tell the truth.
No, you got to tell the truth, man. That's at the epicenter of your calling, at the heart of it. You got to tell the truth. Speaking of banks and big business, I was just reading a piece. The title just jumped out at me. This is in the L.A. Progressive, and the headline of the piece is, "Are we progressives still relevant?" And that's an arresting question. Are we progressives? And I would add, are we progressives post-election day? Are we progressives still relevant? This station, in which I sit in L.A., brands itself, as you know, Doc, as unapologetically progressive. That's our brand.
Yes.
We are unapologetically progressive, and we're heard across the country on stations who I think can get with that notion of being unapologetically progressive. That is, in their programming and in their thinking and in their public pronouncements. But this piece is titled, "Are We Progressive Still Relevant?" And here's the subhead: today's number one progressive priority should be what it ought to have been for decades: ridding ourselves of the corporate Wall Street grip on this country. A powerful piece I recommend you read in the L.A. Progressive. But I put that question to Dr. Cornel West: are we progressives still relevant?
Well, that's Sister Sharon and Brother Dick, though, right?
Yes, sir.
Oh, they truth tellers from way back, and they're still young at heart, but they've been at it for a long time. But I would say this: genuine progressives are those who have a loving commitment to poor and working people and are willing to tell the truth and serve and sacrifice for everyday people. Now, you and I coming at it from the chocolate side of town. We got to love our black people. No matter what black people say about us, we're going to love them anyway.
That's right.
So that's where we come from. That's poured into us, you see. But we're going to tell the truth. So as long as you have truth tellers who are concerned about and have a loving commitment to poor and working people, then progressives are relevant. So that first sentence, corporate control over the economy that doesn't allow for the satisfaction of food and housing and quality education and jobs with a living wage and safe communities. If capitalism can't produce that, if a system can't produce that, then we got to bring critique to bear on it. No matter what you call the system, if you're not satisfying the needs of those precious everyday people, then we have condemnation of that system. That system needs to change drastically and dramatically. That's what true progressives are for us.
Yeah.
And therefore, I think we'll always be relevant as long as we got the love in our hearts and willing to put our bodies on the line.
I raised this question yesterday on this program, Doc, as to whether or not the sycophants, the minions around Donald Trump, will get the message from Tuesday, especially with regard to turnout. Nothing Dr. West said in this conversation so far do I disagree with, but I do want to put a finer point on the turnout. That turnout sent a message, not unlike these No Kings rallies have sent a message with the number of people who are turning out. I don't know if the folk around Donald Trump are going to get the message that was sent, again, by the turnout, but that's an issue that I've already wrestled with. Here's what I want to ask Dr. Cornel West. To your mind, what ought to be the message that the Democratic Party, since you went there early, I'll follow you, what ought to be the message ringing in their ears right now? What ought to be the takeaway from them from what happened this week?
I think the worst thing they could do is just to go back to normal and think that they're going to bounce back by being normal.
There you go.
The best thing they could do is to completely change themselves, have a Socratic moment, self-examine themselves, and come out swinging on behalf of poor and working people, which means they're going to have to listen to the voices of those who are outside of their party. It's no accident that Bernie Sanders is still outside of the party legally because he's not a member. He just moves in and out in that regard. There's a sense in which Soran is both in the party, but he's not fully of the party because he couldn't get the endorsement of the Democratic Party establishment. So the Democratic Party is going to have to listen to voices. But the question is, does the Democratic Party have the capacity to do that because it's tied to big money, the very big money that's generating the wealth inequality, the very big money that's making it difficult for everyday people to live lives of decency and dignity? That's the question. And we'll see what kind of response they have. But I'm not holding my breath, brother. I see a whole lot of false confidence right now in the Democratic Party. Oh, we back. We back. No, you ain't back. You just had a swing against the neo-fascism of Trump, and the only alternative at the moment is the Democratic Party. That doesn't mean you back.
Yep.
That means you here by default. You here by default.
Pick you can choose his phrase or choose my phrase. You still end up in the same place. He calls it false confidence. I call it irrational exuberance by any definition. I think we're saying the same thing.
Actually, I love your formulation.
No, I love yours more. You like irrational exuberance. I love false confidence. Again, you end up in the same place either way.
That's right.
I digress.
That's right.
In the few minutes I have left, this is breaking news, of course, but it ties in, I think, quite nicely to what Doc has been talking about in this conversation. Nancy Pelosi, as you probably heard by now, will not seek re-election to Congress at age 85. I don't believe in ageism. I don't believe in hating on people who happen to be chronologically gifted. But it is the reality that she's 85. I think Maxine Waters is, 87, something like that now. Jim Clyburn in his 80s. Steny Hoyer is up there. There are a number of people who, again, you can respect them, you can like them. Obviously, they've been around a long time, and have accomplished some things in their careers politically. But this is raising an issue now that she has decided to step aside about what this means for those persons who are lovingly or getting a little long in the tooth. And again, I take nothing against seniority, but what this does raise is a conversation for me, Doc, about people who've been there for so long, making room for younger, fresher voices. What say you about that part?
Brother Shakespeare says ripeness is all, and that means maturity and creativity is something that anybody at any age can have. But he doesn't say ageness is all, because you can grow old and become more immature. You can grow old and become less creative, which means you got to get out of the way and allow for creative and mature folk to take your position. And I think in some ways that's the situation with Sister Nancy. I pray for her and her blessed family, but she's been in there too long. Same was true with Ruth Ginsburg. We can go on and on.
Yeah.
Same was true with so many of those old folk in the Democratic Party, just holding on to power. So that in that sense, don't confuse the ripeness with the ageness. No, King Lear, Shakespeare got something to say about maturity and creativity. You can get it young, you can get it middle age, you can get it old, but you can be old and still lack creativity. You can be old and still lack maturity. That's Shakespeare's point too. That's why he said ripeness, not ageness. So we're not ageist. We don't believe in ageism, but we believe in maturity, integrity, courage being criteria of any leader, no matter what age they are.
No question about it. And Doc mentions Ginsburg, RBG, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I'm still in my feelings about her. God rest her soul, but I'm still in my feelings about that. She stayed too long and stayed so long that everything that she fought for is being undone literally every day in this country because RBG did not know when to stand down. Sometimes ego gets in the way, and you don't get out of the way, and everything you've fought for and worked for gets undone because you wouldn't stand down, let somebody younger be appointed. So I'm still in my feelings about that, but it is what it is. Dr. Cornel West is here every Monday and Thursday at the top of the second hour, and how blessed are we to have his voice on this program, challenging us to re-examine the assumptions we hold, helping us to expand our inventory of ideas, to see the world through a different lens, through a different prism, and again, to get us to be mindful that for God's sake, we got to get some power back to the people. Dr. West, love you, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Love you, my brother. Stay strong now.
You got to give more power to the people. For God's sake. Why don't you give more power to the people? For God's sake. You got to give more power to the people. For God's sake. Why don't you?
For all the freedom-loving folk